In the movie Groundhog Day, Bill Murray's character goes through a lot of unsuccess, lack of success. So he wants to go after this woman that doesn't want him. He wants his career to go a way that it's not going, and the day overall is one of his worst. But he has an opportunity to practice that day over and over and over again until it becomes his best. He learns to play the piano. He does all of these things that he hadn't made time for, been able to make time for before, and refines his approach with the woman of his dreams so that she cannot refuse him. And besides the kind of creepy side of that, it points out another concept that there is a perfect version of us, that there is a perfect person who lived our perfect lives. So there's the person that succeeded in all the ways that we failed, that did all the things that we failed to do. We are constantly measured against this phantom potential. This kid, his name's not really relevant, but he was famous for a minute because he had scored some ridiculous amount on IQ tests and was proficient in all sorts of things from a very early age, from 2, from 3, playing the violin. Um, at one point, asking, giving a speech or asking a politician a question as this young genius. And in fact, he was, based on his testing, supposedly one of the smartest people to ever live. But later it comes out, when he goes through severe mental health crisis, that all of this has been rigged and faked, and that his intelligence is no more than average. That his mother had grand designs for his life and helped him, do a perfect score on the SAT, helped him do all of these things in the service of creating him as a future super genius. But it was all fake, and he couldn't keep up with the other little geniuses that they surrounded him with. And when he was interviewed, it was apparent that he couldn't answer the sort of questions that he supposedly should be able to answer based on his incredible intelligence. And in the end, he was just beset by the pressure of all of this, and said that he didn't even want to be himself. He wanted to be someone else. And this is at like 8, which is a pretty remarkable insight for an 8-year-old. But he wasn't what he was supposed to be. He was supposed to be this perfect, the smartest person on the planet, the most capable little 8-year-old. And every day he faced the failure of not being that. And this is a more literal example of our own doppelgangers, the shadow, the phantom self that constantly reminds us of our failures, because every day we move forward is another day where our potential outweighs our actions. What we could have done, what we could have accomplished, will always outweigh the things that we actually did. And so we always have to settle for who we really are, settle against the potential of who we could be. especially as we see the influences in the media, in movies in Hollywood, in Instagram, and even YouTube. We see people that are living their best lives, people that are immensely successful, and are able to accomplish all kinds of things seemingly effortlessly. But when we return back to our own lives, the things that we deal with are not effortless. In fact, the best of our capability and the best we're able to do just feels inadequate. When we take a job interview and don't get the job, when we go on a date and the person doesn't want to see us a second time, or doesn't make it through the first time, when we try and fail, and every time we try and fail, that comes back as missing the mark, as part of that potential unrealized. Because no matter how hard we try, you're never going to catch up with that phantom self, that super intelligent, super capable, superhuman self that lives in your mind with all of the potential that you've missed and all of the things that you failed at where that phantom self succeeded. You wrote a book that no one read. You made a YouTube video that no one listened to. You put forward your best, and it wasn't enough. But looking over your shoulder and through the mirror of seeing all of these other successful people, there's some version of you in some alternate universe that did succeed, that did go on the second date, that did all of the things that you failed at, and that lived your life much better than you have. And the distance between those dreams and reality is crushing. And it is easy to question your capabilities. It's easy to question your dreams. And I think the further along you go and the more distance between those 2 points continues to diverge, because every single day is another failure. Every single day is something else you could have done better, is another step down the path where those dreams are not realized. Where is all that money? Where is all that success? And every day is a day where none of that happens. When you watch some YouTuber making millions in their teens, and every day forward is another day where you haven't hit that mark, and another reinforcement that you never will. Which then goes into the idea that maybe you've reached your peak, and everything after this is more of the same. And that phantom self flies high above, and you will never come anywhere close to catching up to it. And the burden of doing so becomes greater and greater the further along you go. And it's soul crushing to your creativity, to your ambitions, to what you want to accomplish. It makes it harder to do those things at 40 than it did at 20. At 20, the world was in front of you, your potential yet unspent. At 40, at 60, at 80, what's left? There's not much left. And is there really enough in the tank to overcome that incredible chasm of failure, to reach that potential that you never did? No, there isn't enough time left. No matter what you did at any point, you'd never get there. So then why do any of these things when the best effort possible is hardly enough to make a difference? That you don't really move the needle at all. That, sure, you take that poetry that's been sitting in your, in a notebook somewhere, it's buried so far underneath things that you don't remember where it is. But you dig it out, you go, you do your reading. But it doesn't make you a successful poet. And as far as art goes, well, that takes a lot of skill. And by the time you decide to pursue it, you need another 20 years to master it. All these dreams and ambitions take so much effort and time that you reach a point that it's just not possible to take that and succeed. You have had the dream of pursuing music, but you didn't. You've had the dream of writing a novel, but you didn't. And now, even if you did those things, there's not enough time to achieve the success that you dreamed of. The best you can do is basically playing to an empty room. So we shelve these ideas in favor of practicality and pragmatism, that in favor of the acceptance and the realization that we'll never get there. That phantom self, there's no, eventually there's no point in chasing it. You just accept that the weight of that failure, and that your whole life will never reach the heights you dreamed of. Except that your life is going exactly according to plan, and there isn't any untapped potential. That there's nothing that you could have done differently than what you already did. And that's the freedom of determinism. That your life had to unfold exactly the way it did. And you don't have to worry about reaching some untapped potential, because there isn't any. That every moment of your life happened exactly the way it needed to. And every moment in your future will happen exactly the way it needs to. And that can take you to bizarre and unexpected places. That can take you, because you're not chasing potential you'll never realize. Your life unfolds in front of you as you watch, and goes places you could never have dreamed of. And you have to surrender to the plan that the universe has in place for you. And where that goes, you don't know. There's nothing to chase. There's only to experience. And it's liberating. It's freeing, because now that creative ambition, that reading of poetry, you don't know where it's going to take you. Maybe you won't be the next Pablo Neruda, but who knows what will happen? The universe has that in mind, has something in mind for you. And being there at that moment, reading poetry to a room full of strangers, is what the universe had in mind for you. To accept that every moment is by design, every moment is as valuable as any other moment. That whether it is Picasso painting, something spectacular, or whether it is you, mowing your lawn, those two moments are equal in value. There is no moment that is greater than any other moment. They're all moments. They're all the same. There is no product or creative endeavor that is greater than any other creative endeavor or product. Every moment is a unique part of your life. Every moment is a piece of art. And you can look at the things that other people produce, but those things are in your life because of your ability to appreciate them. They mean something because of you. They don't mean something on their own. If Picasso's paintings, if every human on earth suddenly disappeared, Picasso's paintings would mean nothing. And you might find that the painting you pulled out of the basket at Goodwill is the most marvelous thing you've ever seen. That it speaks to you. And there's an assumption that because other people are saying, well, Picasso's work is really amazing, and it doesn't speak to you, you could care less about Picasso. Because the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. You are the person that creates that value in the things around you. And there isn't a work of art, there isn't anything that is by itself meaningful. It's only meaningful in its appreciation in how it fits into your life. You are the creator. You are the artist. You are the one who creates every piece of beauty in the world, because they don't exist without you. It's just a bunch of paint. Look at, Jackson Pollock, literally. Just sprays paint. And you look at some of these things and, well, it might even be tough to understand how this exactly is art. But that's the nature of art. It's not valuable. You are valuable. You create that value. And you can stand behind other people and say, wow, all these people think that's an amazing piece of art. But it's not really so. That's an illusion and a lie. Everything is only there because of the value that the observer creates. And that is true both in the work that you consume from others, and it's true in the work that you create yourself. I have these conversations with friends about movies or television shows that they find value in that I think are absurd. And I'm like, you're clearly wrong. These shows have there's the laziest writing I've ever seen. It's awful. The acting is terrible. The special effects are ridiculous. None of this makes any sense. And I'm arguing it from the perspective of my, view of it. But that argument does not invalidate the beauty that they find in it. It doesn't matter to them at all. Beauty exists because you make it so. You are the creator. So create. In whatever way it is that your life is going to lead you to, that is what you are going to do. There is no missed potential, and there is no thing more valuable than any other thing, because the only thing that has any value are the moments of your life that you experience. This is why, what painting would you trade for a single hug from a child? None. What is more valuable than the moments that you live in your life? This is all an illusion of value, an illusion of superiority. And going back to that poor kid, that 8-year-old who's been told that now he's only average. Well, of course he's average. Everyone is average. The entire human race is average. There aren't any these ideas that some people are geniuses, some people, they are living a life in which, they are accomplishing the things that they're meant to accomplish, or not accomplishing the things they're not meant to accomplish. This is not the product of super people. It's a product of the universe. It's a product of whatever it is the universe wants you to do. And maybe that's to be Picasso and paint something. Or maybe it's to be the guy that is mowing his lawn. whatever you're doing is what the universe has you doing. You're watching this series of events and have no real control of them. Picasso had to be Picasso. Picasso had to draw what he drew. And there's no choice in that. He couldn't have not been Picasso. So why is it his fault, Picasso's fault, for what he creates or didn't create? Well, first off, he doesn't create anything because everything that he does only exists as you perceive it. It only exists as you walk through the museum and say, wow, that's an incredible painting. I like that painting. But that's really you, the perceiver. You are the one creating that value, that without your, if you never saw a Picasso in your life, then none of his paintings would mean much to you. And you could make the argument that, well, it means something to someone, and it's, yes, it does, because that's their life. And then it means something, because it does mean something to someone. That's why it means something, is that person to whom it means something, not just by itself. And is Picasso responsible for why so many people enjoy his work? No. That is far beyond his control. So many artists, brilliant ones, create all of their work only to have it destroyed. How many artists have created masterpieces that we don't know about? Picasso did what he was here to do, just like you are doing what you are here to do. And there is no failure in that. There is no missed potential in that. And there is no one's life or work or creative expression is any greater than anyone else's. We're all here and we're all the same. And that kid, yeah, he was average. And so was everyone else. And there wasn't a problem with him being average. There was a problem with the perception that his life needed to be different than what it was. He had this pressure, this idea that he was falling short of this genius he had been sold as. That his mother, that magazines, that interviews, and television networks had sold him as something he wasn't. And he got the first-hand experience with that phantom self of all of this potential he was supposed to have, but somehow didn't. But that actually was what he was supposed to do. That was what he was supposed to be. And as painful as that experience must have been for him, that was the experience he was supposed to have. That's why he was here, to have that experience. Maybe so I could talk about it. So he could go through his own process with that. We're all here to deal with all kinds of insane things. But all of those things are the things meant for us. There's no doppelganger. There's no other self, and there's no failure that wasn't meant to happen. There's no potential squandered. There's nothing we missed that we could have done better. Everything we've done is what we were supposed to do. It is living the life that was designed by the universe for us to live. And the point of this, if there is a point, if it's reaching anyone, is to stop chasing shadows and to realize that every moment and every decision, even the smallest, most seemingly insignificant step forward, is a step you're meant to take. And who knows where it leads.